All right, welcome to another episode of Piecing It Together, the podcast where we take a look at a new movie and try to figure out what movies might have inspired it. And today it is part 3 of our FilmQuest 2025 coverage. We are talking about Hacked, a double entendre of rage-fueled karma. And joining me to talk about Hacked is Hana Kazim, who is also at FilmQuest with her film Yathoom, and so we will be talking about her film as well. So this is another double episode for you from FilmQuest. Before we get into it, I do want to remind you, as always, to make sure you are subscribed to Piecing It Together wherever you listen to podcasts, and follow us on social media at PiecingPod. Also, if you're looking for a very fun community of film lovers to join, check out Popcorn and Puzzle Pieces on Facebook. I keep all of the internet riffraff out of there. It's just cool people who love talking about movies. Lots of filmmakers, lots of just film fans. Come join us. It's Popcorn and Puzzle Pieces. And with that said, let's get to our conversation about Hacked and then Yathoom. All right, it's time to get into Hacked, which is going to be a fun one to talk about. Hana Kazim is here. How's it going, Hana?
All is well. How is everything with you?
I am doing great. This is going to be a wild one to get into. There's a lot to talk about here, but I'm also looking forward to talking about your film in a little bit. But before we get into either of the films, introduce yourself to my listeners. Tell them a little about you and what you do.
My name is Hana. I'm a filmmaker based out of Dubai in the United Arab Emirates. I have been making films for over a decade now. Recently, I've opened a horror development company that concentrates on Arab horror specifically, called Wiswas. I felt like there is a potential, genre wave coming out of the Middle East. We have a lot of lore to talk about. We have a lot of creatures and untapped materials.
Sure.
So I wanted to kind of create a little company so that people know I exist, and for them to come over and chat, to see what kind of stories we would like to develop. If they have any questions on the different creatures we have in the region. I've done a lot of research. A lot of it's in my head. So I'd love to collaborate with anyone who wants to talk more about it.
Well, that sounds really great, and I really want to talk about that more later when we talk about your film. But it's kind of the perfect segue to what is essentially like a very, very American horror story, that of being hacked and losing everything, and the American dream going up in smoke, which, quite frankly, I feel like that's just everyone, whether you're hacked or not, but that's another story for another podcast. But going into this movie, though, what was your impression of? Was it the thing that you expected it to be when you heard the synopsis and oh, these people lost everything and go nuts on the person who hacked them?
Yeah, honestly, just from the opening, I felt that this was going to be a fun film, and it really delivered in that sense. You just didn't know what to expect from scene to scene, which I truly enjoyed. And I think, honestly, being hacked, or technically, as the ending of the film likes to talk about, being scammed.
Sure.
Being scammed is something quite universal, and so it was entertaining to see what someone would do to a scammer, because there have been a time or two that I wanted to prank a scammer. And so it was nice seeing this visually.
Yeah, no.
What we could do to a scammer if we wanted to.
Totally. And honestly, and we don't get into this really in the movie. This movie is just a big fun revenge fantasy, but the internet has just been so ruined by this crap. And we all feel it. Like you said, it is universal, and it should be this big awesome thing that's connecting us all, and we all get to collaborate and do all this cool stuff. And instead it's just nonstop searching to make sure it's .com and not .corn or something. It's just terrible. The internet is awful now. It's so
oh yeah. No, I mean, now with AI it's getting even worse, because these scams are actually very intelligent. Initially you could rely on your English speaking skills to tell if the email was a scammer's email or not.
Yeah.
But now with ChatGPT and all of this kind of AI software that has come out, they've become more eloquent in the way that they scam. And honestly, there was a time or two where I almost fell for it.
Yeah.
I even remember there was a disruptive scam that was happening, and it like got into people's WhatsApps, and I knew who was going to fall for it. So I knew exactly who to tell. Don't fall for this. This is going around, so a friend of mine sent a message, and I knew that message was a scammer's message. So I didn't click it,
Yeah.
Or I ended up actually once confronting a scammer who hacked into an Instagram page. And they were like, I'm not a scammer. I'm like, oh no, you are a scammer. I know. You can't trick me. And they were like, oh well. That was it.
Oh, God.
So,
Yeah, it's funny too. One of the other films that I'm covering during my FilmQuest coverage is Apopheniacs, which is another movie that kind of deals with that one's more about like deep fakes, but like again, it's clearly something that is in the consciousness, and I think we'll start seeing more and more stuff from independent films. We'll start seeing more and more from big Hollywood productions all across the board. I think it's just something that we're all dealing with so much, and we're just going to keep seeing more of it. But speaking of which, let's get to some other movies that we think might have inspired Hacked in some way. Are there any things that you want to kick it off with? Something that you thought of for this one?
honestly, the titles are escaping me, but there is definitely a film in the 90s that this film reminds me of. It had something to do with hackers too, but it was from the hacker's perspective.
Was it Hackers? It might have
Maybe.
been. It might have been, which is quite the cult classic nowadays. But I think that that's certainly a good place to kick it off with, because like that was. It's funny too because that was so quaint at that time, and it's like if you go back and watch that movie, it is so quaint and just so silly with what it like thought hacking was and what was capable. But now we're getting to the point where it kind of is, and like this movie and Apopheniacs, like I said, like these are movies that like are dealing with the current moment of hacking and like what all that is. And like you said, at the end of this movie, it's kind of pointed out, hey guys, this wasn't really hacking exactly; it was a phishing scam kind of, But yeah, definitely. I think that's a fun one to kick it off with. I'll go with a movie that came out last year that I thought was a lot of fun, and I think that this fits in really well with, and that is The Beekeeper. This was a Jason Statham action movie directed by David Ayer, and he's got this like older lady that he kind of helps take care of, and she gets scammed, and then just one guy, he goes and just destroys this whole phishing scam organization. And it is, again, it's that catharsis of like what we want to see happen to these people. And Hack definitely is like, tapping into that.
So it's like Taken meets Hackers.
It's 100% Taken meets Hackers. I think we did a live show of my podcast on that movie when it came out last year, and I'm almost certain both Taken and Hackers came up during that show. So yes, definitely. So we got Hackers, we got Beekeeper. You got another one you want to bring up here?
Yesterday I was watching that film Jennifer Kent made, Nightingale, and I've been watching revenge thrillers because I have something in my mind that I've been working on. So I watched that. I also watched Revenge. So I have been on a revenge sort of vibe the past couple of days, just sitting here watching revenge films.
Sure.
I also saw some. I rewatched Sympathy. Is that what it's called? It's like one of the it's the one after not Sympathy for Mr. Vengeance. Is it Lady Vengeance? Sympathy for
Lady Vengeance. Yeah, sure. Yeah.
Right. I also rewatched that, so I think there's definitely something that has to do with revenge. Maybe after Hackers, I just kind of got obsessed and I didn't realize.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, that's good. And so many great revenge movies. When this was kind of pitched to me by Jonathan Martin, who has a very fun cameo in this, by the way, he mentioned John Wick. Which goes right in that, the wheelhouse of the best revenge movies. And The Nightingale and Revenge, both great examples of those kind of things. So I'll throw one other thing in here. It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia, which is not a revenge movie or anything about hacking, but is about people just kind of losing it and yelling over each other constantly, which there's a lot of chaos in this movie and a lot of just constant escalation, and nobody can ever kind of keep their cool. And it kind of reminded me of the way that things just go always off the handle in that show. And it's always so much fun to see everybody just nobody can calm each other down, but nobody can calm themselves down. And so everything always just ends up going to the nth degree. And that's always one of the best things on that show.
Yeah. No, I think even revenge comedies are one of the funnest things. Like, I think my favorite revenge comedy is Mean Girls
Oh, sure.
of all time. I feel like that film just is the epitome of what girl culture was in the 2000s.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's I mean, revenge films, I feel like nowadays have kind of become more in fashion. I
Yeah.
guess everyone has unresolved issues.
Yeah, yeah. What's funny? I'd never really thought about this before until you were bringing Mean Girls up into this conversation. But like, usually a lot of like female-fronted like comedies like that are going to be a little bit more like forward-thinking tech-wise because of all the social media, the cell phones, like all those kind of things are so like ingrained into the culture of that. And so, like I think of Mean Girls, I think of like something like Easy A or something like that. Like all these movies that like, I think they're like playing on social media way before like some random action movie would bother to have, Stallone or somebody, I don't know, but like doing that. And so they're kind of clued into that part of the culture. And that's obviously a major thing here in that where we're talking this whole time about how this is something we're all thinking about right now. So I think it makes sense that we're kind of bringing it around to the technology of it all.
Yeah. Yeah, I think tech has made us more connected to each other nowadays. So I guess more chances for friction to happen
Sure.
and, more things to be upset about. I've been realizing that the more you're on your phone, the more you're just upset about something and you don't even know what. It kind of disrupts your day. The more you just stay away from social media and you just stay away from, your phone for a bit, you kind of find peace.
Yeah. You know what? Everything else is just movies. If anybody takes one thing away from this conversation, it should be that. It should be what you just said, because that's the most important thing in the entire world right now.
Right.
So, any other things you wanted to bring up about Hacked? Any closing thoughts on it before we move on to your film?
Honestly, as I was watching the film, I thought to myself, more movies need to be made that are like this, that are made for the enjoyment of it, a group of friends making films together. I feel like that's the true indie spirit.
Yeah.
It's something that we're losing as indie films start to feel more and more commercial, or are kind of being forced to be more and more commercial so that they can, get sold and make money back. But I feel like the vibe of cinema now is very much too overcrafted, and it's getting to that extent where the films are very predictable, or you're expected to shock an audience every time. Meanwhile, this was just made for the fun of it, and you can feel it. You can feel the energy of the film, like bleeding through the screen, and
Yeah.
it made, like, even though I was watching this by myself, the producer told me it's even better being watched at a party. And I'm like, I could see this. I could see this, just being enjoyed by a group of friends. I would love to see more films like this. I'd love to see films that are catered to being shown at a party setting, or are made by a group of friends where you feel the love coming out of the screen, and you feel the fun coming out of it.
Yeah.
Hopefully that'll revive cinema.
I think you're absolutely right. I think that's a really important thing that's lost a lot of the times. And also that personal connection to the story. Like, this obviously goes off the rails, and like that's the whole point of it. But like at the core of it, there is a very personal story, something that happened to these people that they wanted to tell a heightened version of. And once you lose that and you're just kind of like, telling stories just for the hell of it, like you're kind of losing that connection to it. And so I obviously am always looking for more of that truth, and more of that, like something that like actually matters to the person that's telling the story. So
100%.
absolutely. Well, let's move on to talking about your film. Tell us a little bit about it.
Yathoom is actually a proof of concept for a feature. Initially, I had thought I wanted to do a sleep paralysis film that dealt with depression. And then as I thought about it more, I felt And as I dug more into, the idea of sleep paralysis and, why these things occur in the human psyche, both, spiritually, why does it occur in the Islamic religion, and also, why does it occur psychologically to someone? I love combining these two things together. In my previous short film, I did the same thing where I combined the concept of faith and, psychology. So we never know whether the demon is really a psychological effect, or, the horror is really the psychological effect, or the, spiritual effect.
Yeah.
And so with this, the more I delved into it, the more I felt it was cosmic, because the past few years, I've just been feeling like the world is very strange. Things have gotten really strange after COVID.
Yeah.
Things that we believed were true are no longer true. And now with AI, it's even worse.
Sure.
Like, you really don't know what to believe and what's in front of you. And it feels like there's like this weird break in the dimensions. I don't know if that makes sense. But that's where I ended up taking the film, where maybe there's some sort of comfort in knowing that that something lies beyond this earthly dimension. There's some sort of like comfort for someone who's gone through so much. So the film follows a girl who got into a car accident and killed her father and brother, as she was driving, and she was a new driver. So she lives with that guilt, and it's broken the connection with her and her mother. And in a way, when the sleep paralysis demon visits her, it takes her into this nightmarish journey through her memory, and it's sort of kind of disrupting and destroying her memories. It's kind of eating away at it. And then, at the end of the film, she's confronted by the demon, but she realizes that the demon is not there to frighten her, but to show her something. And this story comes actually from an experience I've had personally. When I was studying here in the US, I had a incident where I had sleep paralysis, and that was the first time I've ever had sleep paralysis. And it was this like shadow figure that lived in the corner of the room.
Yeah.
And I generally don't scare easy. I would have a nightmare and wake up the next day and totally brush it off. But this one kind of stayed with me for a week. I just felt like something was staring at me for an entire week. I'd be in class and I would feel something was there. And, it took a while to shake it off. But once I finally did, I realized something. I was sort of questioning, the world, faith in general, the constructs of, what we have as what we've learned as kids and how we want to go into the adult life, as one does when they're in their early 20s. And having this experience kind of brought me back to my upbringing in a good way. And it made me revise things in a more healthy light. And I realized that maybe the demon wasn't so bad. He was trying to show me something, and he kind of showed me a comforting side of things. So then I started to think more about evil. And I'm like, well, if evil doesn't exist, how could good? They need to contrast each other in a way.
Sure.
And so it just kind of delved into this. So hopefully the feature will expand more on this and even be, this one's a little bit light, but the feature will be a bit darker with scarier scenes and more horrific incidents. But yeah,
Right on.
That's Yathoom.
Well, I first of all, I thought the style of this movie was just fantastic. It's just really cool visuals, really cool use of the camera, and the way that you tell the story visually really comes out. And I was wondering, like, as far as like the way that you chose to tell this, like, because it is a little bit more, like, you used the word cosmic, but like it's a little bit more almost abstract, almost like unique in that kind of way. Like, was that always the decision going in to like go in that direction, or was there more focus on, demonic presences or whatnot, and then you kind of went another way as it went?
So I think initially the demon spoke in the early versions. Actually, like the final cut also had the demon speaking. I literally removed him in the sound design.
Nice.
Where everyone was like, wow, that's such a bold decision to make, like, during sound design. But the demon was like, let me show you the fabric of the universe. And he was kind of saying these things. And I felt like the visuals were just saying the same thing. And it felt a bit too redundant. And so the initial version of this was even more abstract. if that makes sense.
Okay.
Like it was like the first version had a sphere above her head. It was like a big eye, kind of cosmic eye that was staring at her. And then I felt like I kind of don't want to do VFX. Like if I can't execute it well, then it might just look weird. So I wanted to do a lot of in-camera effects.
Hmm.
And as I started developing the story and I talked to the cinematographer, we liked the idea of trying to do everything in camera.
Nice.
Like having absolutely no VFX. Like the only effects we used were what was available in DaVinci. There was absolutely no effects done in this film.
Amazing.
And it was just a practice of trying to do something different. The last film I did was, where the last short I did was very narratively structured. It was, perfectly structured short, where everything was meant to have its place. But this one, I didn't want to tell a story that was too straightforward. I wanted to be as abstract as possible. I wanted the audience to feel the journey of the story rather than understand the journey of the story, if that makes sense.
Sure.
And I hope I kind of did that. I feel like that in this sense, you kind of have to more experience it in a cinema setting. Experiencing it on a screen might not have the same effect as, the full sound design. But I guess it was an experiment that I enjoyed. I learned a lot from.
Right on. Well, are there, obviously we talk about influences on this show. Are there any films that you were kind of drawing from that were like big touchstones for you?
Mandy.
Okay.
Very much loved Mandy.
Sure.
So like the visuals of Mandy. I watched a lot of sleep paralysis films as well. And I think one of my bigger references was I'm really influenced by Darren Aronofsky. So like a lot of his work, whether it's in the film or not, the way he discusses faith is really interesting to me.
Okay.
And I guess Hereditary a little bit in terms of for the feature, because of the way the story unfolds, it has a lot to do with grief, and grief horror is, I think, one of the more impactful types of horror. It really leaves you with something that's like scary. Like to me, that is the scariest form of horror. When you're dealing with something like grief, like, it just feels heavy and it weighs on you, and it stays with you after the film.
Sure.
Yeah, those are my influences.
No, those
I might be forgetting.
Yeah, those are some great ones, though. I love Aronofsky, and certainly the way that he deals with all those things that you were mentioning. Absolutely. Was there anything with this film, and with when you're expanding it into a feature, anything that you were trying to steer away from as far as with how the film would kind of come together and like what this was going to say about sleep paralysis and the grief that kind of has led her to having this experience?
I wasn't trying to steer away from anything. I always know that it's a very delicate balance when you're talking just in general about faith. I don't like going in one direction or the other.
Sure.
in terms of that. I like people to make their own determination about what they think the conclusion is. But I guess my always that's the fine line that I struggle with, because regionally we're very attached to our faith, and I think this is one of the reasons why I think horror can actually thrive really well. Because any kind of country or any area that has had such religious impact would have good
Sure.
horror, like a good horror market. Like in Italy, I think they have a really thriving horror scene because of the attachment to their faith.
Sure.
So I think that's always my balance, like trying to make sure that it's acceptable or like understood in the West, but at the same time like has the disciplines of the East, being that the film opens with a quote from Rumi, which talks about this life and the next, and so this is very much the film is very much seeped into this world of what we think is the afterlife and what is beyond the veil that we see in reality. And I started to do more research to make sure that Western audiences have the same sort of understanding of the universe, and it's not something that's super regional and maybe doesn't translate. So that's always my balance, honestly. It's trying to make sure to make a film that's relevant culturally, but also watchable internationally.
Yeah, no, I'm absolutely. You kind of touched on it there, but I did want to talk a little more about what you were saying in the beginning of this conversation about how you're working with the company for like expanding the understanding of like Arab horror and people like working together on stuff like that. If you could talk a little more about what you're doing with that.
So we have a lot of interesting creatures. So Yathoom is the specifically Emirati name for the sleep paralysis demon.
Okay.
The sleep paralysis demon in other parts of the Middle East is called Jathoom. So we just in our culture we change the J to a Y just as an accent thing. So we have the sleep paralysis demon, and then you've got like other types of jinn. So Yathum is a type of jinn that only comes when you have a falter in faith, you know. And then you have like the ghoul, which like is this kind of sort of hybrid of zombie slash jinn that eats dead things in the graveyard. And
Mm.
you know, it's this scary figure that we have in our culture. And then we have, specifically in the Emirates, we have something called Duwais, which is this female jinn. She's half jinn, half human, who like has sickle hands and like, you know, like attacks men who are unfaithful. So there's a lot of just untapped creatures, you know.
Yeah.
And and a lot of them obviously are jinn based, and jinns are demons. And so, you know, whenever you discuss demons, even in the Christian faith, you have to bring in some sort of Christianity or some kind of religious arc to it. And this is why I always talk about religion, even I do even now, where you can't really talk about demons without the effect of what demons have on a human. And it's usually like, even in The Exorcist, it's like a faltering of faith or something, you
Sure.
know. So I think a lot of Arab horror is going to be religious horror, and then there's a few that's going to be like social sort of horror. But those are the two balances, and I think that's the thing that penetrates the region in terms of horror films. It's like understanding the balance between what you're trying to say in religion, but at the same time using these demons and these figures.
Yeah, absolutely. And like you said, I mean, it doesn't matter what where it's from. Religion and social issues are always in horror from going back all the way. So no matter where the movie comes from. So yeah, 100%. I think that's great that there's so many different creatures and all that stuff that you can draw from. And yeah, I think we'll see a lot of really interesting stuff out of there as the years come by. But awesome. What else are you working on? I know you're working on the feature, but anything else you want to shout out or mention before we close up here?
I have a book. I wrote a short story that's part of a book called Arabian Nightmares.
Okay.
It was released earlier this year. Hopefully, it'll be in shelves, or like it was finished earlier this year. Hopefully, it'll be in shelves at some point. But me and 10 other Arab writers came together and like wrote a whole bunch of short stories that created a book called Arabian Nightmares. It's pretty cool. You should Google it and check. I don't know if copies are still available, but if you reach out to me on Instagram, I can probably find some. So that's definitely one to shout out. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, I'll have links in the show notes for all that. And Hannah, thanks so much for doing the show, and hopefully we can get you back again sometime.
Thank you. I would love to. Thanks so much.
All right, so I hope you enjoyed that conversation about Hacked, a double entendre of rage-fueled karma, and about Yathoom. Thank you to Hana Kazim for joining me on that one, and thank you to all of you for listening. If you're enjoying piecing it together, make sure you're subscribed. You could also follow us on social media at Piecing Pod. And I told you at the top of the show about our Popcorn and Puzzle Pieces Facebook group. You could check that out too. It's a really fun community of film lovers. Also, if you're in Las Vegas and you're listening to this, we've got live shows coming up. I believe the day that this goes up will be the day of our show on The Running Man over at Maya Cinemas, but we will be back at Downtown Cinemas next week for Sisu Road to Revenge, and I'm sure I'll be announcing some more live shows coming up very soon. You can always find out about all of those at piecingpod.com, where you could also sign up for our mailing list over on Substack, and make sure that you know about everything we got going on with piecing it together. So it's time to close this out with a piece of music like I always do. And I know I just did this on the last episode. I swear I'm not trying to make these about me. But I also have a music video that one of these films reminded me of a lot. Call it a puzzle piece, if you will. But of course, I hadn't seen these films yet. But there's a stop motion animated music video that I put out about 8 years ago called Back into the Dark. It's still one of my favorite things that I've ever had associated with me. It was created by an artist named B. Landers, and um, it is just this really cool, dark music video that's all stop motion made and is really abstract and weird. And I've always had trouble kind of describing what exactly it's about. I have like my ideas, but I feel like Yathoom and this both kind of have very similar themes and very similar ideas. So I think this is a really good one to play to kind of match up with what Yathoom's going for. So this is Back into the Dark. It's from my album Head Like Fire, and the music video is on my YouTube channel, youtube.com/music by David Rosen, and it actually was an official selection of the 2017 FilmQuest Film Festival. So another way that it connects back to everything that we are doing here on this week of FilmQuest 2025 festival coverage. But this is Back into the Dark. Hope you enjoy it. We'll be back with more piecing it together. One more episode of FilmQuest coverage tomorrow.
an All Points West production, produced by David Rosen in Las Vegas.